Okay. I'm so glad you guys are coming on tonight. Thank you so much for doing this with us.
Thank you for having us. We're so excited.
Yay. I know, we are too. We are too. Everybody's got their notepads and pens. They're ready to take notes. We just want to learn from you. So they also have seen the questions, and you guys have too, but I'd love for you all to share your story, share your timeline of this business, what it looked like for you getting to the top, and, you know, just whatever you guys want to talk about, we're ready to hear.
Okay, awesome. Well, I got started just a little over 4 years ago. And my background is that I'm a hairdresser. I did hair for many years in the salon. And so when I started seeing these before and after pictures, I totally thought it was a complete scam. Well, my best friend Becky, who had just had her sixth baby, she now has 9, but had her sixth baby, told me that in a mom's group she saw where these women were using the wraps and that she was going to try it. And I was like, oh my gosh, don't waste your time. I used to do weight loss wraps in the salon and they're only water weight and it's never going to last. So they're lying to you. And like all good best friends, she didn't listen to me and she tried it anyway. And her results were pretty amazing. But me being the skeptic that I am, I was like, whatever, you just had a baby, you're breastfeeding, you lost the weight naturally. There's no way that does that for you. So let me tell you what, I'm going to become a customer. And I'm going to try those wraps and I'm going to prove to you that they don't work. And when they don't work, I'm going to debunk this company that's lying to everybody. So I was one of those. So if you've got any of those on your team or that are, you know, still haven't joined your team yet, don't give up on them. So I tried the wrap as a complete skeptic. I waited for Chad to get home because I didn't want some distributor coming over and wrapping me and holding the camera at a different angle. So I waited for Chad. He was in the Army at the time to come home from the field. And we actually cut a little piece off of the top and wrapped his chin. He didn't really have any chin because he was in the Army and worked out all the time. But we both saw measurable results in about 45 minutes. It was crazy. I was drinking water, so I knew that I was hydrated. It wasn't a water loss wrap. And I literally, after I ate my words, I was just like, oh my gosh, all my friends are going to want this when they see my result pictures. And so for me, it was a no-brainer. I signed up on the spot as a distributor because I was like, everybody's going to want this when they see this because they know how skeptical I am. And so we joined, and our first goal in the company was just to make an extra $300 to $500 a month. Chad was enlisted in the Army before he became an officer. So in order for him to become an officer, he had to go back to college and get his bachelor's degree. So we had student loan debt, we had credit card debt. So even though we were making pretty great money as officers, or well, I wasn't an officer, I was an officer's wife in the Army, we were still living paycheck to paycheck because we were really just robbing Peter to pay Paul. It was crazy. And so $300 to $500 a month for us was going to be huge. That meant that we could start paying down some of that debt. It meant that we'd have some breathing room, that I'd be able to go to the grocery store and get some of the groceries that I wanted to get that I knew were better for us, but that we couldn't afford. And so that, I know that sounds like something that might be so small and trivial, but that was really important to me to be able to buy better food for my family. And so that was our first goal. We were actually able to reach that goal our very first month. We went Emerald. I simply got excited and literally showed everybody I came into contact with my results. And I want you to understand this because when I got started in this company, I was a stay-at-home mom. I was homeschooling my 2 older kids, and my youngest, who's autistic, was in diapers. And he didn't do any talking or anything back then. He just screamed. So my life was hectic, and Chad was gone all the time. He was sometimes gone for 2 weeks at a time out in the field. And there were times, like even on the days that he just went and did a normal day's work, he was gone 12, 14-hour days. It was crazy. So when I say that I was able to do this and go Emerald my first month, it wasn't because I had a lot of support. We had just moved to Fort Campbell. We had just gotten stationed there. I knew no one. I had no friends. I knew no one. I didn't even know my neighbors. And I was able to go Emerald that first month just by being excited. So Chad would go to work and say,
I would just, well, right away when we had Jaree's pictures, then for me, I was excited from her pictures. But when my sister came into town, I was super skeptical. And she's like, all right, I'll try one just because it's you. And then overnight she had crazy results. And just to see that how the wrap like changed her mind just by her wrapping.
And she was drinking wine all night the first time she wrapped. And I was like, oh, you can't do that. You're not going to get very good results. You have to drink water. And she's like, meh. and she still got amazing results the next day.
Yeah, and they were incredible. And so when I saw her demeanor, how it changed and how excited she was, like she was just rechecking herself over and over, and I couldn't stop looking at her before and after pictures. And I just saw how she went from being totally skeptical to like, oh my gosh, I have to get started as a distributor. Everyone's going to want to do this. I was like, all we got to do is get this wrap on people. That's all we got to do. And then Jaree's mom was next. And so we wrapped her, and she couldn't believe what it had done because she tried everything under the sun to tighten, tone, and firm a little bit, all these different diets, all these things. So right away, and all we knew then was whoever wraps the most people makes the most money. That was literally what we were told when we started. And then we learned about the greens. So now we're talking to people about the greens. We learned about defining gel and fat fighters. So I remember we were doing lots and lots of skinny packs in the beginning.
Plus the fat fighters,
yes.
plus the greens, they got free shipping.
So that and I tracked it all because I knew the importance. I'd been in a few other businesses before, so I knew we needed a really good 30-day story. So I tracked what we did each day for those first 30 days, and we wrapped over 50 people. We signed up 14 distributors, and it was like 22 loyal customers. So that was our first 30 days, and we were just so excited. So, we were getting everybody launched, and everybody was getting their 2 customers at a minimum at their launch parties, and a lot of them were getting 4 right away. And that's just kind of how we got started. So, take
well, and I just want to go into a little bit of detail about how we were able to wrap 50 people, because there's a lot of people on here like, oh my gosh, how can you even wrap 50 people in a month? I can't even afford to get any wraps. And we couldn't afford it either. But here's what's great. So as most of you know, every time you sign up 2 loyal customers, you get a box of wraps for $25. So when I heard that, I was like, no brainer. So every time I put a wrap on somebody, I literally built value into being a loyal customer or distributor. There was no, or you don't have to do anything at all. It was like, you're either going to become my loyal customer or you're going to become my distributor. And so that was a choice that they had of each little wrap session that we did. I didn't do wrap parties my first month. I couldn't because Chad was gone all the time, and I had stuff with my kids and no sitters and just no way to do it. And so we did a lot of like one-on-one wrap appointments. So when my baby was napping around lunchtime and Chad was able to come home, sometimes he would bring a couple guys home with him that just wanted to make tape. They have to make tape in the military, so their waistline has to measure a certain amount compared to their neck. So it was like candy for those guys. They would come over, and it was kind of funny because here all these guys would come over to my house. Of course, I wouldn't have the guys come over unless Chad was there, but they would come over, and then they would leave like an hour later with a little baggie of greens. And I'm sure my neighbors were like, what is going on over there? But they were getting amazing results. I mean, we even had guys that got like great PT, what is it called? PT scores, which their physical training or whatever it is that they do. Their PT scores went up just by being on our supplements and the greens. And so we were just so encouraged at that point because we were literally just ignorance on fire. And I would take my pictures out with me because, again, I didn't know anybody, but I went to the grocery store all the time. And so when I went out to the grocery store, I would just be standing in line and I would be like, oh my gosh, can you believe what these wraps just did to my body? And they're like shoving the phone in their face. And they're like, wow, I'm like, you can come to my house, I can wrap you. It's only $25. And I always said it's only $25. I never prejudged their pocketbook. $25 for me was a lot of money back then. But I never wanted to prejudge their pocketbook. And I know that as moms, let's just be real. Doesn't matter how broke we are. So we always find a way to get our nails done, our hair done, or go get the newest makeup or something. So with that being said, you can definitely get somebody, if you're excited about it, somebody will try wrap for $25.
Yeah, and the thing that I really like to do was just ask anybody, guys, women, whoever. I would show some pictures in my phone because I could tell the story. I had the story of Jaree, the story of my sister, and the story of my mother-in-law. And then more people as that came up, more military people and all that. So I just had this portfolio in my phone of before and after pictures, and I'd tell a couple stories that would relate to that person. And then I would say, who do you know? Who do you know that would want to try this for just $25? That helped me get around the you need this thing, right? That's what guys are always scared of.
Yeah, well, or like, because that was a way that he could approach women and they wouldn't be like, oh, you think I'm fat.
Right.
It was really, really good.
So I'd be at like, the grocery store or something and just talking to someone. I'd be like, I have to share this with everybody. My wife and I are in a business and this is just blowing my mind. Look at these pictures. And then I'd hand a Blitz card and just say, who do you know that would want to try this for just $25. And they're like, boy, I need about 100 of them things, you know, or they'd be like, every girl I know wants to try this. And then we could go forward in the conversation. And that was all we were doing, you know, and just, so month 1, emerald, month 2, diamond, and then we just kind of sat there.
Right. And so every time I signed up 2 loyal customers, I was getting that box of wraps for $25. Immediately signed it, ordered it, and then I'd get it in and I'd have 4 more people come over. And out of those 4, I'd sign at least 2 up as a customer, and then I would get another box in. So I just constantly had this flow of wrap rewards that was coming in. That's how I was able to do it. I made over $800 in wrap cash that first month. I thought I saw somebody maybe calculate. I really don't remember. I know our check the first month was over $2,000. I mean, that's insane, right? And then, so the following month, we did the same thing because we were like, dang, that worked. So the next month, we wrapped like 47 people or something, and we went diamond the second month. Well, we sat at diamond for a few months because I had just found out that Chad was going to get deployed to Afghanistan. And we had been in the Army for quite a long time, and I had never had to deal with an deployment. God had just really, every time he even like volunteered and wanted to go, God just kept him back. And so this was my first deployment. I got in a huge funk. I quit working my business. I'm just going to be real. I quit working my business. I didn't make any calls. I didn't follow up with anybody. I didn't wrap anybody for about 3 months. And Chad was in, like I said, in Afghanistan. And while he was away, the Holy Spirit, hopefully I don't freak anybody out, but the Holy Spirit, the Lord told me at about 11 o'clock at night to go in and check on he wasn't quite 2 years old at the time, Elijah, go check on him. Well, if you are a mom, you know by your 3rd baby, you're not like freaking out and checking on your kids at 11 o'clock at night. You're kind of over that fear of having to check on them, make sure they're breathing. Well, so I knew that it was important that I went in there. When I went in, I opened the door, and when I did, I could smell blood. It smelled like iron. And I remember turning on the light, and his entire crib and he was completely covered in blood. It looked like a murder scene. I had literally, you can imagine the thoughts that went through my mind, because here I am, I'm home by myself. I have 2 other kids, small kids there with me. I know no one other than the guys that I wrapped that were all now deployed with Chad. And Chad was in Afghanistan. And here my baby was completely covered in blood. I didn't know if somebody broke in and stabbed him. I picked him up out of his bed and I laid his little body on my bed. And I saw that the blood was coming from his diaper. So I opened his diaper and blood pooled out both sides. I mean, he was literally this close to death's door. I called 911. I don't even like, some of this, it's just crazy to me how it all happened. And I'm trying not to get super uber emotional, because I hope none of you ever have to go through anything tragic like this, but it rocked my world. My baby was lifeless. He was blue. He wasn't even there. And by the time the ambulance got there and they were able to do some like whatever blood work stuff they were doing, they had him hooked up to transfusions because he'd lost so much that he had a very, very small chance of living. Well, Elijah was born with a condition called Meckel's diverticulum, which we didn't know about until then. And it's just an extra piece of tissue in his stomach, and it just decided to start bleeding at that time of the night, in the middle of the night, and it bled in his gut and then came out through his rectum, and that's why he was just covered in blood. And thank God that we were able to get him act fast. I mean, literally, he was minutes, if not seconds, from it being too late. And so we got him to Vanderbilt Children's Hospital, where they were able to do the life-saving surgery that they needed to do on him. And I remember I couldn't take my other 2 kids in the ambulance with me. They wouldn't let them. So I had to beat on my neighbor's door, whom I barely knew, but just saying hi as I drove in, and begged him to keep my kids so that I could go with my baby who was possibly dying in the ambulance. And he ended up being a special forces guy, and they do extensive background checks. So thank God I picked the right neighbor, right? Mm-hmm. So I was there at the hospital. They did the surgery, and Chad isn't even like, I can't even tell him anything because I can't get a hold of him.
Yeah. So I'm there, and this is a picture that I keep because it just helps me to always remember. Wow. So that's Elijah. That's when he's in the hospital. And so I was, just the timing worked out. I mean, when you're in Afghanistan, I'm lucky if I can even get in touch with Jaree every few days, right? But because I was traveling with I had a group of guys, I was a platoon leader and had 6 guys with me. We would travel around training different parts of Afghanistan how to shoot their artillery. So I just happened to be in Bagram in an airport where I had internet. So I'm looking on Facebook and I see Jaree's post, please pray for my baby. It's really bad right now. We're, at the emergency room and he has to have emergency surgery kind of thing. And I'm like, what the heck? And then so I start doing, getting in touch with Jaree and doing phone calls, and the Red Cross called. And I'm just thinking, go home, go home, go home. I need to be home right now. Well, the Army, because the nature of the Army is when you're in the Army, the Army comes first. I mean, it's just whenever the Army needs you, you go and you do what you need to do. Your family gets the leftovers. So as my family grew, I was already getting frustrated because I missed my youngest son being born. I missed birthdays, holidays, that deployment, all this sort of stuff. So to make a long story short, the Army made it tough for me to get home. So by the time I finally got home, the great news is that the life-saving surgery worked. Elijah literally got home, and Jaree got home on Christmas Eve, like a couple hours before I got home on Christmas Eve. So the good news is that we're all home together on Christmas Eve. We got to wake up with each other, December 2012, Christmas Day. We were all together as a family, and we knew he was going to be okay.
So I want you guys to understand how good God is, because in that moment that I thought my baby was going to die, obviously I was like, why, God, why? But in hindsight, looking back at how everything went out, and I hope this isn't too deep, Rachel, but I feel like it's something we're supposed to talk about.
No, go ahead.
I can remember when Chad deployed, and I was being such a little brat because Gavin at the time was probably like 8. Yeah, he was about 8 years old. He's my oldest.
Yeah.
Was praying one night while Chad was deployed, and this is before Elijah got sick, and he was praying out loud, and he said, "Dear God, please bring Daddy home for Christmas." And I remember as he said it, my heart just sank, and I was trying so hard to keep a straight face and not just burst into tears, because I'm like, Daddy's not going to be home for 9 months. He just left, buddy. He's not going to come home for Christmas. I didn't say it, but I just wanted to scoop him up and just cry my eyes out, but I didn't. And I just sucked it up. And what's crazy about how God works is Elijah was born with this condition, you guys. He could have started bleeding, and ultimately they always bleed out like that, okay? It's just rare, but they always bleed out. He could have bled out 6 months before Chad deployed. He could have bled out 6 months after he got home. But that timing, as tragic as it was still God and his goodness, because God allowed that to happen, I guess you could say, but he also he came to me and let me know I needed to go check on him. And I went, and we were able to do the surgery to have his life saved. Okay, so he's here with us. But what's even cooler is that my 8-year-old's faith and God grew exponentially because God brought his daddy home for Christmas. Even though I was like, oh God, oh ye me of little faith. I'm so sorry. I remember I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry for not having faith for this. And I remember telling Chad before we got the word that he was going to get deployed, I'm like, we're going to go to conference together. I just know we're supposed to be at this first conference together. And then when he got deployed, I'm like, well, I heard that wrong. My life sucks. I'm like not eating or showering. I'm barely feeding my kids. And so it's amazing because God and his goodness, that whole thing shaped our career, and we're here talking to you because of it, because Chad came home, he was able to stay home, and then we were able to go to our very first conference.
Yeah, and that was like another miracle because it was supposed to be a 9-month deployment, and I left at the end of October, so I was supposed to be gone. And when I came home, when Elijah was sick, it was supposed to be for 2 weeks. Emergency leave is normally 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. But when I got home for 2 weeks, I called back to my commander who was deployed, and he said, hey, we need to have a rear D commander. We need someone to stay back there. And so I think if you want to, we'd like to have you do that. I'm like, well, yeah. So I was able to stay back, not have to deploy again, which meant in January 2013, I was able to go to conference. So imagine us sitting there. And at that point in time, we were like, in my mind, I was thinking, okay, I don't really want to do another 10 years in the Army. I never, ever want to be in a situation where I want to be home and I can't be home. I don't want that to happen anymore. And we weren't sure if It Works was what it was going to be, like what we were going to do to transition out of the Army at the time, but we were open to that. And I already knew that my whole thing was never, ever again, was I going to be in that situation where my kids and my wife needed me and I couldn't be there, because looking at this for days, I mean, it took me like 3 days to get home, and that's what I'm looking at. So like, that's my never again. So anytime I get frustrated in the business, or I'm just like, oh, whatever's going on, I just remember that like it was yesterday. And that gives me the strength and the energy to continue to persevere, to remember why we're doing this. We're doing this for the time freedom and the financial freedom, so our family can be together all the time and we can make the choices instead of other people making choices for us. So that was so powerful. So then we're there at conference, and there was such a massive download of belief for us. Like, we always talk about, Mike Patillo talks about all the time, you have to grow your belief in the products, you have to grow your belief in the company, grow your belief in the industry, and grow your belief in yourself. And all those areas for Jaree and I went through the roof at conference. And so when Mark came out and said, anybody, this was in January 2013, and he said, anybody that can promote to triple diamond, they're going to do all this stuff for us, whoever could promote. And Jaree looked at me and said, is that even possible? Because we were diamond, and I dropped down to executive. I'd gone from emerald to executive.
I was still diamond.
She was still diamond. Yeah, she was a strong diamond. She went diamond like 17,000.
Here's what's cool about that too. So even though I quit working for like 3 months because I was a big baby, we had all that life happen. Because of the hard work, that run that we did, it was probably a little close to 90 days of work from the very beginning that we put in. I stayed diamond, and I continued to collect those checks. So I was still getting a couple $1,000s a month, which was insane to me. I was like, holy crap, this is residual income. But we got kind of comfortable with that. We're like, wow, with our officer Army pay, it was great. And then now an extra couple $1,000s a month, we were just like, whoa, like we didn't know what to do with it. But we did know, like, I remember something just switched in my brain when I felt so helpless at the hospital, and I couldn't have my husband there with me, and I didn't have anybody, and I had to drop my kids off people I didn't know. And I was just like, I will never have, I said, if there's a way for me to never have to allow the Army to dictate whether or not my husband can be with me in a tragic situation, then I'm going to do whatever it takes to do that. So when we went to conference and we saw the top money earners walk across the stage, and I saw women that were all different shapes and sizes, all different backgrounds, women that were shaking and trembling as they were talking into the mic, I was like, oh my gosh, if they can do that, I can do this. And I'm a high school dropout. I dropped out of high school my junior year because I have a learning disability. I didn't know I had a learning disability back then. I just thought I was stupid, and my teachers thought I was stupid back then. And so when I dropped out of high school, and I ended up getting my GED a couple of years later, and then I went to beauty school, and I excelled in beauty school because it was hands-on. And so I did very well. I got my license, and I started doing hair. I built a huge clientele, and then I turned to drugs. I have a very sketchy past. I have a lot of abuse in my past, sexual abuse, physical abuse, all kinds of stuff. And I, at that point in my life, decided to start medicating my painful past. And so I turned to drugs and alcohol and partying and all the wrong things in my early 20s. And I blew my career as a hairdresser because of the drugs I was doing, I started having seizures. And they would come on so unexpectedly that I had to walk away from doing hair. And that for me was the one thing that I had going for me. And that was right around the time that Chad and I met each other. And obviously we were both a hot mess back then, and neither one of us knew the Lord. But I just want you, the reason I'm telling you that is not just to air my dirty laundry to you guys. It's because I want you to understand that no matter where you come from, no matter what your past is, you are worthy of success. You are worthy to have everything that Chad and I have, or that Rachel has, and more, because God has brought you here for a reason. And sometimes in our struggle, that is what people are going to relate to. They're going to relate to your struggle more than they're going to relate to your success. So you'll see me on Facebook posting a lot about my past, and a lot because I want people to understand that you don't have to be polished and perfect to be successful in this business. You can be a broken mess and God can use you. And matter of fact, God loves using messes because he makes you his message.
That's so good.
Yeah. So here we are. So we want to set the foundation because we had such a strong, powerful why driving us. Okay. So when we came home from conference in 2013, we said, we're going to put it all on the table. We are going to work our butts off, and I'll explain what that looked like in a second. But our next month, we went double, and then that next month triple, and the next month presidential.
101
so,
days.
101 days of like hard work. And of course, I was the one promoting right behind Jaree to continue to push her up.
And just to make this clear, I did not have a nanny. I did not have a babysitter. I still didn't know anybody local to me. And Chad was still full-time in the Army, and I was still homeschooling my 2 older kids, and Elijah was still autistic and screaming at the time. So if we were able to do that, then I have complete confidence that whatever you're doing in your life, you can do it too.
What I want you to understand is so many leaders, and I'm sure Rachel could probably go back and tell you the same thing, but if you look at like all the ambassadors, most people can point to like a 90-day period where they just drew their line in the sand and they said, I'm going to work my butt off. So for us, we went from making a couple thousand a month to the next month was $9,000, and then it more than doubled again, and then it more than doubled again. And so my Army pay was $7,500 or something like that. But after that 100-day run, we've never made less than $28,000 in a month since then. That's been the least amount. And that was before we went full time. So at that point, I had to turn in a packet. It took about 6 months to get out of the Army, got out of the Army, and we've just never looked back. And that's been about 4 years now it's been more than 4 years since we started this business, more than 2 since I've been full time with Jaree. So our philosophy when we were running hard was that we knew every single day we had to get, and this is kind of what we tell our team, if you want to promote every month, right? If you want to just guarantee your promotion every month, you have to you really have to educate 3 to 5 new people every single day in this business. That was like our formula. So what do I mean by that? I mean, it's someone we had never discussed It Works with before, and we either put a wrap on them, we got them on a phone call where we shared the 3 steps to success with them. They watched some sort of webinar. They had us read the party pad to them. Maybe they listened to a 20-minute recorded call, something that took them from not knowing about It Works to knowing about It Works. And that was our personal activity. Okay. So our goal every single day was 3 to 5 people personally that were educating on the business. And of course, sometimes we'd have 10 calls scheduled and half the people, didn't answer when we called them, whatever. So we knew we had to have like 10 to guarantee to get our 5. So, and then on top of that, we were supporting all of our team and whatever we could do to help them, whether it was a wrap party or if it was 3-way calls. We do a lot of 3-way calls in our team. So if we're doing calls with them or just supporting them in whatever way we could, that kind of thing. So that was.
So here's the key to doing a 90-day run successfully, because there's a lot of you that have full-time jobs and you have families, you have whatever going on. And we had all that going on too. But here's the key. You're going to cut out all the time wasters. You're going to cut out TV. Like for us, this is what it looked like for us. My house didn't get cleaned every day like my A-type personality always did. I was like, I let dust balls float around my floor, and I was just like, it drove me nuts, but I'm just like, whatever, baby, I'm going to bring you home. Let the laundry pile up and the dust balls float across the floor. And my kids had their greens every day with their doctor's permission, of course. And I would throw like cereal and cold cut sandwiches at them for like 90 days. They are alive. They're doing well. So they did fine through that little season where we didn't do a lot of hot home cooked meals. But we were committed to making sacrifices as I don't know what that is.
I think there's some, if you're not muted, make sure you mute your phone.
Okay, do you have a dollar question?
You could just mute them all again and then unmute us if you want.
Okay, you guys can unmute yourself, so I'll go ahead and do that.
Okay, can you hear us?
Yep, I'll do it again if that happens, but.
Okay, no problem.
Okay,
so we literally just decided as a family that we were going to lay all those extracurricular things down. So no TV, no date night, no extracurricular activities for the kids other than we went to church. That was really it. And we spent any time, free time that we had, we focused it on building our business. So I did a lot of my building on Facebook after conference. Before conference, it was mostly belly to belly. But after conference, I did a lot online. And that meant that I couldn't just get on Facebook and scroll and scroll and scroll and play around on there. It meant that I had very limited amount of time between my kids to spend on there. So if I spent 45 minutes, it was going to be intentionally reaching out and building relationships with potential customers and distributors. And so I was very intentional about the time I did have because my time was very, very limited.
So a couple things, just kind of looking through some of these questions that I think are great questions, by the way, and really relevant is one is how do you seal the deal with potential distributors? So when, the goal, this is relationship marketing. So you want people we don't want to convince people to join. We want people to become comfortable with joining. We want them to understand the value this company has and that it can help them with where they're at in life. So a few things. When I'm getting on the phone with a prospect or a three-way call or something, one of the first things I'm always asking is, what do you like the most so far about It Works? What do you see It Works doing for your life? So something that's going to get a positive response, and that response is going to let me know a lot more about that person. Like we talk about personality colors. So they're going to share what they like the most. They might be focused more on I like the products the most. So we're going to talk to them more about products. Or I like the idea of making an extra $500 a month. Well, if they're talking specifically $500 a month, then I'm going to have a conversation about how they can get to $500 a month really quickly.
Right. And we're always trying to immediately identify what color they are because we're going to tailor that conversation to whatever personality we're kind of picking up as their dominant personality trait. And that's really not hard to do if you've taken the test yourself and you kind of read about each color. So if somebody's like, oh my gosh, I'm just so excited to get around a bunch of friends and do this, you know that they're blue. So I'm going to talk about how much fun this business is and all the great things that we get to do, like going on this cruise ship. If they're red and they're going straight to the money, they're like, yeah, girl, I want to hustle. I want to make some money. Then I'm going to be very direct and my red is going to match their red. If they're yellow, all of a sudden I'm going to become this really sweet talking yellow. And I'm going to talk to them about all the ways that It Works is amazing because they give back to the community. I'm going to talk to them about Sale of Freedom. I'm going to talk to them about the Gives Back program. And greens, we're just going to answer their questions and we're not going to push them because we know that they are processors. They need time to digest all the information. So you send them to the source, let them research it. And greens are great because greens will call you back when they're ready to sign up. They are the ones that will always call you back. You don't have to follow up with them. And then, of course, is that all the colors?
Blue.
Blues. Oh, blues. I think I already said blues. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so you can pretty much identify what somebody is by just asking them a few questions. One of the things that I like to do before I put Chad on the phone, because we always do three-way calls, even when it's the two of us. So I can give them the same information that Chad's going to give them, but I'm training that potential right then and there, that when they get whenever they have to talk to their new potential, that it's going to be easy because they can just put them on the phone with me or with Chad. So I'm training them from the beginning that they don't have to know all the information. So I make friends with them. I say, you know what, girl, I am so excited that you're interested in this. I want to make sure that this is going to be a good fit for you and that quite frankly, it's going to be a good fit for me. And so I want to make sure my goal for getting you on the phone today is because I want to make sure that you get all of your questions answered. And I want to make sure that you have all the information so that you can make an educated decision on whether or not this is going to be for you. And maybe it'll even be great if you pray about it to make sure it's going to be a good fit for you. But my husband is amazing. He's great at breaking down how we get paid. And so I am excited to introduce you to him because he's going to answer all of your questions about our 3 steps of success. Does that sound fair? Yes, great, bam. I don't ask them for permission to give the phone to Chad. I kind of do, but I don't. And I don't ever say, hey, let's get on the phone. I'm going to put you on a 3-way call with Chad. And I don't train my team to do that. I just have my team call, let us know, hey, I'm going to be doing calls between 1 and 2. Will you guys be available? Yep, we'll put you down between 1 and 2, and we'll answer the phone anytime you call. And so then that way they can do the same thing. Oh, I know that you're interested in learning more about this business, and I'm brand new, but I'm going to put you on the phone with my upline. She's a top money earner with the team. And then they're just going to get me on the phone, and I'm going to do for them what Chad did for me.
Yeah, the more exposures that someone gets, the more credible it becomes. So if someone when they talk just to you, Okay, that's simple.
Hey, Rachel, will you mute everybody again? It's getting a lot of feedback. I think somebody's not muted.
Okay.
Sorry.
Awesome.
There we go.
Awesome. There we go. So, think of it this
Maybe it
way.
was like your guys' connection or something, but it must have been the feedback. Sorry.
That's okay.
Okay.
So what I love about this is we have so many amazing people in this company. We have amazing things, and an exposure could be something as simple as taking a picture of someone's story in the Rat magazine and sending it to them, saying, "Read this. You remind me of this person." They connect to that. It could be me putting a person on the phone with someone else, or having someone watch a Zoom of someone else doing the party pad. There's so many tools that we have, and it works. And every time that we can just get someone to get educated in one of those ways, we're moving them through the process of becoming a customer distributor. So when I'm on the phone with anybody, I'm going to say, "What did you like the most?" And expectation is invitation. So as I'm talking to them, I'm telling them how they can do this. I'm sharing stories about people who, in their shoes, who have already done it in this company. So I'm planting seeds of belief in their mind that they can be successful if it works, because I believe in them. I believe in the saying that believe in everyone, but count on no one when it comes to building our own businesses. So I'm always believing in people, but I'm not counting on them to build my business. That's my job, to build my business, but I'm believing in people. So then when we're wrapping up the phone call, I always say, "Do you have any more questions?" And when they say, "No, I think that's it for now," I say, "Well, I have one question for you. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 1, you have no interest at all, and a 10, you're ready to sign up right now to become a distributor or a customer if they're, want to be a customer, what number are you at?" And that's a really fair question. It's an easy question to ask, because then they get to stop and think. And if they're a 10, then, right then and there's nothing else that needs to be said. They're ready to sign up. If they're an 8, then I'm going to say, "Well, that's awesome. What needs to happen to get you to a 10? And usually they'll say, "Oh, I would be a 10 if I had the money, but I get paid Friday, so I'll be a 10 on Friday." Then, you just schedule Friday and sign them up. But even if they're a 2, say, "Okay, 2, that's better than 1, right? They were a 0 when before you talked to them. Now they're a 2. What's it going to take to get you to like a 5 or 6? And then they're going to tell you, "I'm just scared it won't work for me," or they'll give you whatever reason. And sometimes you can move them forward, and sometimes it's just they're not ready. They're not ready right then and there. So you just need to move on and just say, "Well, I know this isn't for you right now. Do you mind if I keep you informed?" And that's always leaves the door open when you ask them that, because then when a new product launches, you can always go back and let them know, or a new promotion comes out, you can always go back and let them know and say, "Hey, we talked before, you said it was okay if I kept you informed." Well, It Works is doing a BOGO right now. So you have that door open all the time, and you don't know if a month down the road, 6 months down the road, they're going to be ready now.
I think one of the things too, like whenever we're talking to people, is that we just need to help them to move past some of their fears. Because at the end of the day, a lot of times people they're afraid that they are not going to be able to do it. And so what I like to do is do the worst case scenario, best case scenario kind of deal. I actually learned this from Lori Conway. Like, worst case scenario, you get signed up, you spend $99, you get a box of 4 wraps, and that's typically what a box of retails for. And you use those wraps on yourself and you get amazing results. And you decide you don't want to do the business, oh well, you're out $100, but you got those 4 wraps that are amazing. Best case scenario, you spend $99 and you start making that $500 a month that you said that you desperately need. And, like, let's weigh this. Like, what do you blow $99 on? And so sometimes whenever you put it to them like that and you give them all the different ways that some people just need to be told what to do. I'll be like, "Hey, just go sell some clothes at Plato's Closet. Go do a little yard sale. Ask your neighbors if they have any admin jobs that you can do for them. Is there somebody you could babysit for?" And, I've heard people have sold furniture to get in this business. Like, what are you willing to do to get in? And those are the people that I'm looking for. They don't have to be successful in life. They just have to be driven, and they have to want it. And so if you challenge somebody and you give them a way to go and get that, and they come back to you like, "I got my $99. That happens for me all the time. Those are the people you want in your business, because they are the ones that are hungry and that are going to really work for it.
Yeah, the secret sauce, I guess you could say, and what I would say every ambassador has in common, and what we're always looking for, is people who are teachable, that are willing to work, and has some ambition. when we find people with those three ingredients, it doesn't matter if they're 18, it doesn't matter if they're 80. That is the formula to have massive success with It Works. It's just those things. You have to be humble enough to be teachable. You have to be willing to work, and you have to have some self-motivation, or, what we call a burning desire. There's something inside you that makes you not want to settle for mediocrity.
So Dave Ramsey has this amazing quote that says, focused intensity over time multiplied by God, which is what we had. Whenever we sat there and Mark rolled out the good bonuses, and I was sitting there as a diamond at conference, and he said that if you go double diamond, there was no double diamond bonus back then. So it was triple diamond was 25,000. And I was like, do you think there's any way we could go triple diamond by March? And Chad was like, all things are possible through Christ who strengthens us. So why not? And we had already got our minds were blown there at conference. We just went home on fire. And that's when we went to work and went double diamond in February and triple diamond in March. And then I was like, oh, the bonuses are back. Do you think we can go presidential next month? And he's like, we already did it, so why not? And so we did it again. And it blows my mind looking back, because we had faith that was so big. And you've got to have so much faith, and you've got to believe God for something that's so big, that's not within your grasp. Like that's true faith. When you believe God for something that you can't possibly get within your own strength, that he has to step in and move on your behalf. And that's what he had to do for us. He stepped in because we took a step forward in faith that it was going to happen. I mean, we worked, because faith without work is no good. Like, we still put in the work. We busted our butts. But we still took that step of faith, and we believed that God was going to meet us, and he showed up and he showed off. It's focused intensity over time multiplied by God equals unstoppable momentum.
Yeah, and that's what we want, is unstoppable momentum. So I'm going to cruise through a couple of these questions real quick here, and then you can jump in if you want, hun. But one person asked, and these aren't in any particular order, one person asked, how much time do you spend with training and coaching your team versus working the field and growing your business? This is a very important question, because you have to keep the right percentages in balance, or you'll go into management mode. And when you go into management mode, that's the beginning of the end. That is you losing your momentum very soon when you get into that mode. So 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 is what I've always gone by. So 1/3 always of growing your own business like you're brand new. So it's you finding new customers, new distributors, leading the way, focused on doing at least the steps to success. That's the
at least once a month.
Yeah, at least once. And I don't think we have time, but I could go into a thing we teach with our team about that, just like with a deck of cards. But anyway, so the first third is you working on doing your own, leading the way by example, by recruiting your own distributors, your own customers. And then the second third is supporting your team with 1/3 of your time, with calls, with Zooms, with Facebook chats, all those different types of things. And then the other third that gets neglected a lot, which is so important, is 1/3 working on yourself. That's personal development. Do that early in the morning or late at night, find a place. But even if it's 10 pages of a good book a day, or 10 to 15 minutes of a good audio a day, if you just improve yourself 1/3 of 1%, after a year, you've improved 100%. After 5 years, you've improved 500%. And I've even heard people say that work hard on your business, but work harder on yourself, because we have to grow. There's something called the law of the lid, and which means that our income and our leadership can only go to whatever level we're at. So if we're at a 5 and we start It Works, we're never really going to recruit people that are past 5s, and we're going to kind of be stuck. So we're going to, even if our income goes up to a 7 or 8, it's going to come back down to 5. So we have to keep growing ourselves and learning. And there's so much good information out there, all kinds of John Maxwell stuff and incredible
So
books.
one of the things that I just wanted to elaborate on that he said was that we're going to spend 1/3 of the time with our team. But on your team, you want to make sure in that 1/3 of that amount of time that you're spending the majority of your time with your top producers, because 20% of the people on your team are going to do 80% of the work. Those are the ones that you want to focus your time, because the other 80% that aren't really doing crap those are the ones that want to suck the life out of you, that want to ask you all the questions that they could go to the E-Suite and find. So you've got to be smart. So some of you might have a lot of yellow in you, And you're going to have to learn that you've got to focus and spend the time and help the ones that are putting in the time and the effort, and don't get caught in that trap that Chad was saying of management mode. Because what happens when you get into management mode is that you, all of a sudden, you're like, what happened? Nobody's signing up anybody, because
become a cheerleader for
you
your
just
team.
created a whole team of managers and nobody's working. So it is so important, you guys. It is so important that you lead from the front. I can't tell you how important that is. Even in the quote unquote slow season, you have to lead from the front, because that is what at the end of the day inspires your team. You will inspire them to get to work by you working. And so anyway, sorry, I got on a little soapbox there.
That was great. They wanted to know, could you go through really quick the 1/3 just real fast so that you could write it down?
Sure. So let's say you're going to spend 6 hours a day, right, on your business. Well, at least a third, so at least 2 hours on income producing activities that's going to lead you to getting customers and distributors.
Your own personal activity.
Yeah, your own personal activity. And then 1/3 of your time supporting your team, through, and if you're going to support doing one-on-one things, then you want those to be people who've earned your time. Either they're brand new, you just recruited them, because obviously you're the sponsor and you got to give them one-on-one time when someone's brand new, or it's people who are producers on your team and have earned your time. Okay. The other part of supporting your team is through group. So that's why we have, we'll do like team calls once a week, or you can do a Zoom, or anybody's invited, that sort of thing. Then that allows all the group to have access to you, but you're not blowing a bunch of time one-on-one that's not well invested.
And you have to realize that it's okay not to answer their messages. That's something that we've gotten really good at. Like, I have people that will message me, and if they're just those kind of people that just keep asking the same dumb questions, or they're complaining, I hate complainers, I will not answer them on purpose. Sometimes I'll even look at it so they see that I saw it, and I won't answer them if they're being negative when they're messaging me. And that is okay. You do not have to answer everybody as soon as you, like, don't be so attached to your phone that every time it dings, you're like, ah! Like, take the time and only invest like that into the people that are really producing, that, like he said, that have earned your time. You will be so much happier. You will have so much less stress in your business if you put those healthy boundaries there. Healthy boundaries, godly boundaries are honor. That's honor. It's honor to have boundaries, and it's okay. And when you've trained your team that it's okay to cross those boundaries all the time, you have to understand that it's going to take a little bit to train them not to cross those boundaries anymore. But you need to do it for your own sanity. And if you do it, what you'll find is that you'll prune and get rid of the ones that aren't supposed to be there anyway, that were time wasters and time suckers. And the ones that want to step up to the plate, that gives them the opportunity to do that, because what you've been doing all along by doing that is creating them to be, you're enabling them. So they're now an enabler. So you've got to untrain them and get them back refocused on what God has called them to do.
Yeah, remember, you're in training to be a CEO of potentially a multi-million-dollar organization. So sometimes you just got to say, what would a CEO do right now? Would a CEO chase this person? No. Would a CEO coddle this person? No. Would a CEO just give something to someone when they haven't done anything and create an entitled group? No. No, you wouldn't. So when it comes down to those decisions and you're thinking, what should I do? Just think, what would a CEO of a major corporation do? Would they do this or would they not do this? And normally that will be a good guide for you. Now, of course, if you feel like maybe someone hasn't done anything for a month and you feel led to reach out to them or something, definitely reach out to them. So don't just all think business all the time, but as a general rule, think that way. And then at the end of the day, you got to kind of take inventory of what you did that day too. Look back. How many out of your 4 hours or 6 hours, how much time you spent, how much of that was spent doing income producing activities? How much time did you spend talking to new prospects yourself or talking to prospects with your team? And you have to just kind of look at that, because if you didn't spend hardly any time, then nothing probably moved forward for your business. And at the end of the day, when you look in the mirror, ask yourself the question, if my whole team did what I did today, would anyone have made any money? And if the answer is no, then you really didn't do the things you should have been doing that day. Okay, you probably got sidetracked doing a lot of busy work and different things. But so 1/3 on your own personal production, like you're a brand new distributor, you're focusing on your own customers, your own distributors,
Steps to success.
working on steps to success. 1/3 of your time supporting your team, and then 1/3 of your time growing yourself.
Personal development.
Because personal development is so huge in this. So that is it for that question. And I don't, do you want to?
There's one that I would love to ask. So you said there's probably a lot of newer people on here, or maybe there's a lot of people on here that's never promoted a Ruby or Emerald or Diamond. You did it in 2 months. How did you teach us the technicalities before we end about how you knew how to chart your first month into this business, like going Emerald? What did that look like? How did you know what to do? And teach people, like, what's your strategy for charting is so important. And I just feel like so many people miss the boat with charting. So how do you execute that?
All I can say before he goes into this is that I am so thankful that my husband is green, because I would have been like the best paid double diamond in the company by default, because there's no way I could have charted to ambassador without his greenness. Let me just say that.
So check this out. Okay. So charting. All right. First of all, I want to tell you this, because this breaks it. When some people look at a chart, a diamond chart, they see 25 spots and they go, oh my gosh, 25 people. What I see is I have to recruit 10 people and help 7 of them find 2. To me, that feels so much easier. Like if I just have to recruit 10 and then find out which 7 of those 10 are serious and help each of them get 2, I can do that, right? That's diamond. That's diamond. So go back from there. Ruby, what I really need to do when I'm Ruby is I need to find 3 people, and I need to find out which of those 3 are serious. That's Ruby. So what I love to do is when we're building a Ruby, we'll recruit 3 people, and then we'll put those 3 in a text together, and we'll say, whichever one of you recruits somebody, we're going to place our next distributor on your team. So basically what that does,
That's good.
competition. Everybody, then what kicks in is called fear of loss. Nobody wants to not get a distributor.
And we don't, because we learned early on that enabling those and just building people, like we did that. Okay, let me just.
You're like, surprise, you're Ruby.
Surprise!
Like, oh, I don't have to do anything.
And
you guys just keep making me money.
Right,
cool.
They weren't ready. And so their legs would just crumble. And I'm like, what is wrong with you people? I just built you. Like, be a leader. And they weren't ready. And so we learned that instead of just building somebody, we try to identify those that want it. So we'll put them in a chat, like in a text message, like 2 or 3 people that, maybe that we want them to be a Ruby or an executive, and say, the next one of you that signs up a distributor is going to get my next distributor. So we pit them against each other and draw that competitiveness out of them and see who rises up to the challenge. Same with loyal customers. When I get I personally enroll quite a few. I mean, normally I'm enrolling between 10 and 20 a month. And so
customers?
No, customers.
Oh, distributors or customers?
Distributors, and then customers.
Okay.
I mean, there was a time when Facebook was amazing when I enrolled like 10 loyal customers a day, but that's
still 10 to 20 distributors is amazing.
A month. And then loyal customers, probably close to the same ish.
Yeah.
I'm better at, I always turn everybody into a distributor. But so same thing with loyal customers, because I get those 5 to 10 or 10 to 20 distributors, and then they need to get fast start qualified, but I don't want to fast start qualify them. I want them to work for it. So I'll be like, if you get a loyal customer, I'll give you my next one. And then, so it just makes them work for it, so that we're, again, not just enabling them by throwing loyal customers into them. I want them to work for it.
So here's my philosophy on charting. If you're trying to hit a rank, by the middle of the month, you need to have structure done. Okay. So whether it's Ruby, Emerald, Diamond, Presidential, whatever, you need to have structure done, because when your structure's done, then you can figure out exactly how much GV, right, group volume you need. So like for a Ruby, technically you need 4 people to be 400, which is 1,600. And then you need to actually the Ruby and the executive to at least have run an auto ship, which is 160 more, right? So that's at a minimum 1,760. Now here's what's so cool. So let's say it's the 15th of this month and you've got Ruby structure done, and you figure out who has what volume, right? You just write it right on the chart, and you know that you need 800 more volume. So that's the key. That's what you need to know. You need to know that number, because then you can break it down to daily activity. Because if you need 800 volume, and it's the 15th of the month, then you have 15 more days. So you just take 800, you just get your calculator out, right? And take 800 divided by 15.
You don't know that off the top of your head?
No.
Oh.
That's why I have a calculator. So 800 divided by 15, and now you're like, oh, 53.3. So within your structure, you need somebody to be signing a loyal up for at least a box of wraps each day. So when you wake up each day, now you have a target for the day. Your goal is Ruby by the end of the month. You already have Ruby structure. You need 800 more volumes. So now you know every single day you need to chip away a box of wraps from that, what you have, from your GB, what you still need within your organization. That is so much more, that when you think of it that way, 80 or 54 a day instead of, oh my gosh, I got to have 800 volume and I still need it across these 3-4 spots or whatever. That gives you a daily target. Plus it lets you see when you're looking on your chart where you need to work at, where you need to work. Because if you go and you call one person that's a 400 and they don't answer 3-4 times, you're like, I need to replace that person ASAP. They're done. I need to get a distributor there in that spot that's going to work it so I can get a launch party on the books so that they can get to 400 by the end of the month. And remember, expectation is invitation. So it starts with you have structure. Your expectation is you're going to hit that rank by the end of the month. You're going to just figure it out, because here's the deal. If your why is strong enough, you'll find a way. Like any of you on here right now, if I said, when tomorrow morning when you wake up, if there was a note there and your family was gone, your spouse is gone, your kids are gone, and there's a note that says, hey, you have to promote, maybe you're brand new right now, you have to promote to Diamond by the end of October, or you're never going to see your family again. You guys would have Diamond done in like a week. All of you. You'd have Diamond done in a week, because you would be like the girl on our team that's a top recruiter in the whole company. I'm like, how do you do it? She says, I go to bed at 3 a.m. I wake up at 7 and I talk to prospects all day long. That's how she has months where she recruits 30 plus distributors. Now I'm like, she's a little nuts. That's a little crazy, but
She's single mom, by the way.
Oh yeah, single mom.
Homeschools her kids.
Homeschools, yeah, multiple kids. So it just depends, and it's how important is it for you? What do you really, really, really want?
What are you willing to sacrifice? Which I don't even like saying that word. What are you willing to invest to have true time and financial freedom? For Chad and I, it was 101 days of saying no to all the extras and letting my house go and being okay with that, giving myself permission to not be balanced for a small amount of time. If I told you, if you worked your business, like, what's the best analogy is balls to the wall. If you worked your business balls to the wall for 101 days, and I told you that your check could go from $2,000 to over $40,000 in a month, would you be willing to work for 101 days to get over a $40,000 check? That's what you have your hands on right now, you guys. That's what you have your hands on. We are nobody special in my high school dropout. I can't even, like, I read words and I can't even put them together. Like getting in the back office and charting, I'm just like, I'm lucky if I can add 2 + 2. Like I literally have the hardest time, and I truly couldn't have done it without him. But if I can do this, if we can do this, 2 total screw ups, then why can't you? You just have to have something like we did that's going to drive you and make you go when you feel like quitting. Because there were times that we felt like quitting. So it wasn't always unicorns and rainbows while we were building this business. There have been many, many times where we felt like, why are we doing this? Our team is sucking right now. Nobody's working. But we just continued to work even when we went through those times. And we've always been a top earner because we've continued to put in the time and the work.
So the more you build your belief, the easier it gets to sow the good seed. Okay, here's what I mean by that. If I gave you guys a stack, if I gave you $100 bills, right, and I was like, you have to hand these all out tomorrow. None of you here would have any problem handing out $100 bills tomorrow. Now, guess what though? If you're out there on the busy street in your city and you're trying to hand the $100 bills out, you're going to have some that will start crying. And they'll hug you and they'll say, they were just praying last night that someone would come along their path and help them out. And you're an angel sent from heaven. some of you have probably had people told you that when you introduce them to It Works. They're probably telling you that now, that you were like the person they needed in their life, and you have that. Some people you'd hand $100 to, and they would very skeptically just like snatch it from you and give you like a weird look or something, and you'd be like, okay, whatever. And some people would start like telling you that you're evil and they can't believe you're trying to scam them and hand them fake money that there's no way it can be real, because nobody would try and give you $100 just for no reason. And they would have that, but you wouldn't care, because you'd just be like, wow, that's a nasty person. I'm going to go hand this $100 to someone else who really wants it.
And that, I'm going to jump in. And that is a really good thing to leave you guys with, because it is so important not to get emotionally attached to anyone's decision. Whether it's someone you're blitzing and they blow you off or they treat you like crap, don't get emotionally attached to that. Just move on. Whether it's you've talked to somebody about becoming a distributor and all of a sudden they go MIA after they were all interested. Like, you can't get emotionally attached to those things. And you can't get emotionally attached to what your friends and family might say about your business that you're choosing to do now with It Works. Direct sales is it's not within the norm of what we're taught whenever we go to school as we're growing up. And so we're really operating outside of the box and outside of the normal comfort zone. And so what I love about this is that when you don't get emotionally attached to somebody's decisions, you're able to just continue to move forward, and you're going to find those people that actually want this, that need this, that have been praying for this. And so anyway, I just hope that you guys understand that what you have is a blessing. You literally, as you're handing out those blitz cards and you're talking to people online and you're messaging them, don't look at it like you're bothering them. Think about it this way. This is the answer to their prayers. This could potentially be the thing that helps that mama be able to come home and be with her kids, to be able to bring a family home together, to keep them from going into bankruptcy and losing everything. You could be the answer, and God wants to use you when you get that little prompting to go and talk to somebody. But because you chicken out and you're so self-absorbed about, oh, but what if they reject me? You are potentially keeping that person from having something incredibly amazing. So don't be selfish. Instead, go out there and pass that out. Be proud of what you do. Be proud of being a rep girl or a rep guy, and pass those out. And we believe that we plant the seeds and God grows the trees. That's what you have to remember. Your job is just like a farmer. You go sow that seed and it'll fall on the fertile ground that it's supposed to fall on, and God will grow that crop for you guys.
Woo!
Crop, not crap.
Oh, I loved it. Thank you guys so much for coming on here. I really appreciate it. Like, you guys are very inspiring. I learned a lot tonight. My cup is filled. I know that the team loved it. I know they've just, we held on to everybody who came onto this Zoom. So I know that everybody was very interested in everything. And I know everybody walked away with a lot of golden nuggets. So thank you guys so much for taking like a lot of time and not rushing through and really giving all your heart to us. We really appreciate it. I know I know that so many people just fell in love with you even more than they did before. So thank you guys so much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us. We really enjoyed it. And I'm sorry we were late.
No, you're fine. You guys I hope your kids are okay. So you need to go. Hopefully they're sleeping now.
Their grandparents are here, so they're okay.
Okay. Good. Okay. Well, thank you guys so much. We love you all, and I hope you have a great night.
Love you too.
Okay.
See y'all later.
Bye.